Hello everyone. Today we have two movie reviews, and you have to choose the best movie in the comments. I Spit on Your Grave, from 2010. The young writer Jennifer meets the old man Earl. The man hands her a map and the keys to a country house. She was specifically looking for a quiet, secluded place to start working on a new book. After saying goodbye to the old man, the girl sets off on her journey. Having lost her way, she stops at the nearest gas station. There she is met by a young employee named Johnny. Seeing a pretty face, he immediately turns on all his charm. When it doesn't work, he is genuinely upset because his friends Andy and Stanley are watching. When Jennifer asks for directions, he points her in the right direction. When she makes a careless move, she accidentally hits a water tank and douses Johnny. His friends literally can't stop laughing. After apologizing, Jennifer drives away. When she finally arrives, she unpacked her things and immediately started working. On the very first day, she is inspired. And in the evening, talking to a friend on the phone, she admits that the new environment is so pleasant that she should write her first book here. Their conversation is interrupted by a sound from the barn. The girl quickly says goodbye to her friend. The writer checks all her new possessions, making sure that no one is around. She returns to the house to continue her work. Jennifer starts the next morning by jogging through the woods. Her attention is drawn to an abandoned place with a pile of dusty tools. When she returns home, she finds an unpleasant surprise. The sewerage system is out of order, so dirty water flows from the tap and the toilet stops working altogether. Trying to call a repair crew, she drops her phone into the water and it stops working. A young man from the neighboring town, Matthew, comes to the writer's aid. He suffers from mental retardation, but he is still able to fix the plumbing. Seeing that everything is working, Jennifer kisses the boy on the cheek with joy, and he runs away in embarrassment without even taking payment or saying goodbye. Meanwhile, Johnny, Andy, and Stanley pass the time doing useless things on the lake. After a while, Matthew joins them. He proudly tells them about how the city girl kissed him. Stanley, in turn, shows the video he made last night. It shows a naked Jennifer cleaning her soiled shorts. It turns out that a young man was spying on her and filming everything. It was him she heard talking on the phone. His friends start making fun of Johnny, assuring him that a city girl would never like him and that she preferred Matthew. The guy immediately starts to get angry. He assures them that the girl will be his, if he just wants it. Meanwhile, Jennifer continues to work, and when the inspiration passes, she takes out a cigar. Relaxed, she doesn't notice how she falls asleep in the living room. When she wakes up in the middle of the night, she has an uneasy feeling and starts to close all the doors. At that moment, 4 boys appear in the house. While his friends mock the defenseless and frightened writer, Stanley films everything on camera. The guys mock the unfortunate girl, forcing her to drink alcohol and putting a revolver in her mouth. At some point, Jennifer manages to escape, and she quickly runs through the night forest. In the morning, she runs into the sheriff and Earl, who have just gone hunting. The old man recognizes the girl as his client, who rents a house from him. The sheriff calms the girl down and assures her that she is safe now. Jennifer herself begins to talk about the bastards who broke into her house in the middle of the night and started abusing her. The sheriff tells Earl to go back and asks the writer to go into the house with him to find out what really happened. There, he finds evidence in the form of a decent supply of alcohol and several cigarettes in the house. The policeman takes this as a sign that Jennifer was allegedly intoxicated, which is why she imagined all this. He puts the girl against the wall and begins to allegedly search her. At that moment, other guys enter the house. It turned out that the sheriff is the leader of this gang of bad people. Moreover, he behaves much more cruelly than the boys. Having struck the unfortunate girl several strong blows, the man forces the frightened Matthew to have fun with the girl. Stanley was filming everything that was happening. Jennifer faints. When she comes to, there is no one in the house. With a shaky gait, she goes outside and sees that they are waiting for her. They continue to abuse the girl and then take turns having fun with her. As the men talk, it becomes clear that they are going to eliminate her. Crushed and devastated, Jennifer slowly gets up from the ground and walks to the river. She silently approaches the bridge and without making a sound, jumps into the muddy water. Deciding that the girl has drowned, the thieves start looking for the body. After a few hours, they realize that the undercurrent most likely carried the body down the river. The sheriff becomes furious, because if this body surfaces somewhere, he may be in big trouble. He pulls the tape out of Stanley's camera and angrily stomps on it, and then tells the boys to go to the writer's house and destroy all the evidence. When all of Jennifer's belongings, including her car, are burned, Johnny asks his friends to keep an eye on Matthew so that he doesn't tell anyone about what happened. The next day, the sheriff visits Earl and gives him back the keys to the house. He assures him that the writer hastily packed all her things and left, leaving behind bottles and cigars. The old man doesn't ask too many questions, because if the client didn't come for the money, then he can keep it. A month later, the group of criminals continues to live a normal life. They have fun and get to know their clients. No one but Matthew even remembers what happened. One night, Earl calls the sheriff and informs him that his friend Jennifer is looking for the girl because she never returned home and hasn't been in touch for more than a month. Promising to look into it, the sheriff continues to go about his business. Meanwhile, Stanley complains to his friends that his video camera has disappeared, but he hardly ever lets go of it. The only thing that worries him is that there was a tape in the camera that recorded everything he did with Jennifer. It turns out that the sheriff had trampled the blank tape that day. Johnny attacks his friend with his fists because his stupidity can ruin them all. In the evening, sitting in front of the TV, the boy hears a strange sound outside. He goes out on the porch and sees a dead bird. Throwing it away, he returns to the house, but the sounds continue. This time, Johnny finds Jennifer's slipper. Sheriff comes home late as usual. In the evening, his wife reports that they received a package with a cassette inside. She couldn't get it to play through her regular VCR, so she asks her husband to help. Looking at the inscription, the man becomes very nervous. The next day, the whole gang gets together. After discussing Johnny's case and the tape, the men come to the conclusion that Matthew is the one who is messing with them. In the afternoon, the sheriff goes hunting with Earl, as they had agreed. The old man begins to ask questions about Jennifer, and Sheriff eliminates him, deciding to get rid of his friend's excessive curiosity. At this time, the girl lived in the forest all the time, and came up with a plan of revenge. She captures Matthew, taking advantage of his peculiarities. After that, she shows herself to Stanley, luring him into a trap. The boy begins to call for Andy's help. Jennifer waits for him and stuns him with a baseball bat. Stanley finds himself tied to a tree. At this time, the girl forces him to eat a dead rat, and then she does very unpleasant things to him with fish hooks. She leaves him in this position, filming everything that happens on a video camera. Birds start pecking at the boy's open eyes, causing him wild pain. At this moment, Andy is lying over an old filled bathtub with some kind of solution. The girl dips his head into the liquid, repeating the same words he said when he was hurting her. Eventually, the boy falls into the water and stops moving forever in terrible agony. Having dealt with the two offenders, Jennifer takes on Johnny. She knocks him out near the house and drags him to the barn she found in the woods in the first days after moving in. He will undergo a very painful procedure of pulling out his teeth. After that, the ruthless girl makes sure that he will never be able to reproduce. Jennifer calls the sheriff to the park, where she beats him with a bat and takes him to a forest cabin. There, she ties him to a table and inserts a shotgun into a hole not intended for that purpose. The girl ties a rope to the trigger and attaches the other end of the rope to Matthew, who is unconscious at the time. When Jennifer goes outside, she looks indifferently in front of her. When she hears a gunshot, she realizes that revenge is complete. After all, Matthew, who tried to get up, launched a shotgun that killed both him and the sheriff with one shot. Hard Candy, from 2005. Haley and Jeff met in a chat room. She is 14 and he is 32. Jeff is a photographer, and his portfolio includes many pictures of different girls. Their chat was quite ambiguous and filled with numerous hints of intimacy. Despite this, Haley agrees to meet Jeff in a cafe. They agree on a time and place, and Haley arrives at the meeting before her much older date. While they are flirting at the table, a missing persons notice for a girl named Donna can be seen on the wall. After drinking coffee, Jeff buys Haley a t-shirt as a gift and tells her that he has a rare recording of her favorite band's concert at home. However, he can't invite her to his place, so he offers to send her the video by email. However, Haley insists that she should visit his house, and Jeff finally agrees. Haley is confident that she has played it safe enough and can now go home to a stranger because they met in a public place. If anything happens to her, Jeff will be found quickly. During the car ride, Haley is as happy as a child. At Jeff's house, he offers her a drink, but Haley refuses because she tries not to drink something that someone else has prepared, especially in this situation. At school, they were taught not to drink anything they didn't make themselves. She goes to the fridge, finds some vodka and orange juice, and makes cocktails for herself and Jeff. Then they start talking, and Haley learns something about Jeff's past, including that he once had fun with his model when he was younger. The walls of Jeff's house are decorated with photos of his models, and when Haley takes one of the photos, Jeff reacts strongly. The girl took a photo of Janelle, for whom Jeff seems to have strong feelings. When they are significantly intoxicated, Haley asks him to take her photos. At first, Jeff refuses, but Haley manages to persuade him. Jeff feels sick and dizzy. When he starts to take the girl's picture, he changes dramatically in his face and starts to command Haley. Then he falls down and loses consciousness. Jeff regains consciousness and realizes that Haley has tied him to a chair. She confessed that she had slipped some kind of drug into his cocktail. Haley thinks there's a reason he has so many pictures of young girls on his walls. She is sure that Jeff wanted to be closer to them, and he did it with them after the photo shoot. She figured out when his neighbors would be out and made an appointment for him on that day, so that no one would disturb them. In the chat, Haley deliberately tested Jeff to see if he was really interested in girls younger than him, and she had enough evidence to prove that Jeff was the one for her. However, Haley is interested in real proof, photos or videos, so she searches the house and finds letters from Janelle. She and Jeff have been corresponding for some time, but she's not really interested in the letters. After examining the browser history, Haley realizes that Jeff recently downloaded some pictures from the internet, but they are not on the laptop. She searches the entire house and finds a gun under the bed, which she decides not to touch for now. Then Haley finds a hidden safe. She is sure that this is where Jeff keeps the most important evidence. Jeff tries to distract her by talking to her, thinking he can convince her to untie the ropes, but Haley doesn't give in. She's too smart to be fooled. Haley enters various combinations of codes and manages to open the safe. All the numbers she entered were somehow connected to Janelle. Inside are explicit photos, a disc with a recording, and one photo of a girl in clothes that Jeff took himself. When Haley let her guard down, Jeff kicked her, and while she writhed in pain, he moved into the bedroom in a chair. There he took the gun and returned to the living room, but Haley was gone. She attacked him from behind and wrapped cling film around his face. Jeff tried to struggle, but his opponent was too strong. When he lost consciousness, Haley removed the film to prevent him from dying, and then dragged him to the table and tied him up again. When Jeff regained consciousness, he discovered that he was not wearing any pants. Haley hints that she is punishing him for the murder of Donna, the girl who disappeared. However, Jeff denied everything. He was ready to surrender to the authorities and tell them everything Haley demanded. But she realized that the punishment provided by law would be too lenient for such a man. She wanted to do something worse to him. While Haley was waiting for the right moment, she wrote a letter to Janelle to annoy Jeff and make him suffer. Jeff tried his best to talk her out of her plan. He offered her to take his money and equipment, but in exchange, leave him the most important thing. But Haley wasn't interested in his money. She was more interested in taking the most important things from grown men. Haley had everything ready and was getting down to business. But before she did, she took a moment to bring her camera and connect it to the TV. She wanted Jeff to admire what she was about to do. While she was gone, Jeff tried to reach for his phone, which was lying nearby, but he couldn't because Haley came back too quickly. She told him that she had left the phone there on purpose as a decoy. Finally, Haley began to carry out her brutal plan, and in the process, she vividly described to Jeff what finally broke him psychologically. When it was all over and she got her revenge, Jeff didn't care what happened to him anymore. However, Haley gave him some useful advice on how to recover from it all, and then went to take a shower. Jeff tried to free himself, and he succeeded. He pulled out first one arm and then the other, untied himself, and realized that the girl hadn't done anything to him, and everything was still in place. Realizing that he was unharmed, he grabbed his phone and wanted to call the police, but changed his mind. Instead, Jeff took the scalpel that Haley was working with and went to her shower. But Haley had foreseen this scenario as well. She purposely left Jeff alone so that he could get free and attack her. She had a plan for that. She hit Jeff with a stun gun. It didn't work right away because he resisted, but she managed to overpower him. While Jeff was unconscious, Haley erased all traces of her presence in his house. Jeff was tough, and when he came out of the bathroom, she had to shock him again. When Haley finished cleaning, she wrote a farewell letter on behalf of Jeff. She called Janelle, introduced herself as a police officer, and asked her to come to Jeff's house. Haley then placed a chair in the living room, dragged an unconscious Jeff in, lifted him onto the chair, and put a noose around his neck. She also tied him to the chair as a safety net so he wouldn't fall off until he regained consciousness. When Jeff came to, there was a knock at the door. It was a neighbor who brought cookies that her daughter had baked. However, it was just a pretext. She really wanted to know what was going on. A few minutes ago, she noticed Haley on the roof of the house. The girl made a convincing excuse for her neighbor, claiming to be Jeff's niece, and explained that he had been sick and she was climbing on the roof to fix a hole. Jeff heard their conversation and realized that the neighbor was suspicious. He hoped she would call the police and he would be released soon. However, Haley was not going to wait for the police to arrive. She offered Jeff a choice. If he voluntarily jumped off the chair, she would destroy all evidence of his heinous crimes. If he refused, Janelle would come and find out the truth about him. Jeff continued to deny any involvement in Donna's murder, but Haley was beyond convincing. In desperation, he grabbed her with his legs and tried to eliminate her, but he was not strong enough, and Haley escaped. Jeff broke free and ran after her. Haley lured him to the roof, where she had already prepared his punishment. Jeff came with a knife, but Haley was holding a gun. She was not going to shoot him. When Haley had gone up to the roof earlier, she knew that Jeff would follow her, and she had anticipated that they would both end up here. She had tied a rope with a loop to the roof beforehand. Haley offered Jeff the same choice. Either he would put on the noose and jump off the roof himself, or Janelle would find out the truth about him. In desperation, Jeff admitted that he hadn't killed Donna, but had watched his friend do it. Haley replied that when his friend was in Jeff's shoes, he claimed that Jeff was the killer. Meanwhile, Janelle drove up to Jeff's house. With no other choice, Jeff put on a noose and jumped down. At the last moment, Haley told him that she wasn't going to cover up his crime, and Janelle would find out who he really was. After finishing off Donna's second killer, Haley calmly packed up and left Jeff's house.